Okay. Let's talk about some books. All right, so first of all, it's your girl Jada Diamonds here, back with another video. If this is your first time seeing my face or knowing of my existence, my name is Diamond. I make booktube videos. You should subscribe to my channel and you should interact with me. You should engage with me. We should talk about books together. I just want to talk about books, and I want to have friends on the internet that want to talk about books back with me. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about my favorite books of 2023. I'm so excited. That was definitely deadpan, but I'm very excited. Oh, I'm ready. I'm so excited. All right, so I've been jotting down. So I'm trying something different this year. I'm not gonna go fully off of memory with these books, because some of these books I definitely read March, May, April, you know what I'm saying? Only a couple of them are my most recent reads. So I do have my notes here on my trusty dusty laptop right here. So if you see me looking over, that's what I'm looking at, because I just want to get it right, and I want to definitely sell these books to you. So that's why I have notes this time. So we're first going to start off with our honorable mention. It's going to definitely be Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver's Devotions is going to be my one and only honorable mention for the year 2023. So to start with Miss Mary Oliver, you guys know she's a poet. I think she does have a novel as well. I'm not sure. It was so many suggestions on BookTube about Mary Oliver, and I felt like a great place to start was going to be Devotions, because these are, or it encompasses her poetry from the start of her career to the end of her career. And I do think that she handpicked which poems she wants to put into this compilation. So I feel like this is the best place to start. Now, with that being said, the reason why these poems resonated with me so much, this book, first of all, has been my constant companion before bed. You know, if you want to, and listen, I know I might have some people to click on my video that might not be as spiritual as me, that may not believe in God, that may not be Christian, whatever the case may be. If that's your prerogative, that's your prerogative. I respect everybody. But I am spiritual, more spiritual than a lot of people, and I do believe in God. And right now I'm a Christian. And so these poems, they meant a lot to me. I've gone through a lot this year. 2023 has been a very prosperous year for me, but with that comes a lot of other things and forces from other realms that will come and try to deter you from your goals and kind of just take you down through there. And so I've had a lot of strain on my mindset. My mental health has been fluctuating up and down. And so along with prayer, these poems have really revived me. They would give me a reason to like push and like fight and live to see another day. As cliche as that sounds, the poems had a way of grounding me, of making me feel like I was not alone, of making me feel closer to God, to source. And I truly think that was some of the reasoning behind her poetry. She's very, what do I have here? I felt like she was very close to the poetry, to the selections. The selections that she picked for this novel were very close to her heart, which made me feel even more good and special about reading them, the way that I read them and the way that they made me feel. Also here, the whole God and nature sense is like, it permeates through these pages. Like just getting close, like being outside in nature is being close and one with God. So she definitely made me want to take more nature walks. I have one of my favorite trails here in Memphis that I go to, and I always would think back to some of the poems that are in this book. And some of my prayers also, they coincide with each other and they just work well together. So I have a few of my favorite poems. If you've ever read them, let me know. If you go and read them, tell me about how they make you feel. So 4 of my favorites are Whistling Swans, Storage, I Happen to Be Standing, and Mindful. I actually want to, and her poetry will make you think. Like, she has this one poem called Franz Marc's Blue Horses. And so I pulled up the Blue Horses portrait or painting and read this poem just so I can kind of get a feel or sense of how she might have been feeling when she wrote it. And a lot of times through my reading, I would jot down, I have little moments of thinking, you know. This one note that I wrote was, try my best to be reborn daily. It gets really hard, but I'm focused on my happiness above all else. Peace surpasses all understanding. Make sure you believe that. And so it just comes from reflecting on things that I read in her poetry, which makes me feel like, okay, let me just write down in the moment how this woman is making me feel. So let's go to Storage. I'm going to read Storage really quickly. When I moved from one house to another, there were many things I had no room for. What does one do? I rented a storage space and filled it. Years passed. Occasionally I went there and looked in, but nothing happened. Not a single twinge of the heart. As I grew older, the things I cared about grew fewer, but were more important. So one day I undid the lock and called the trash man. He took everything. I felt like the little donkey when his burden is finally lifted. Things. Burn them, burn them. Make a beautiful fire. More room in your heart for love. For the trees, for the birds who own nothing, the reason they can fly. And so, yeah, that's Mary Oliver's devotion, and that's my honorable mention for the year. All right, so I have 7 best books of 2023, and we're gonna go in that order from number 7 to number 1. So the first book I have here, y'all, it's My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. First of all, I just want to say, hilarious. This book is hilarious. It's so freaking funny. It's laugh out loud funny. It's reminiscent of how funny Elif Batuman's The Idiot is. Like, you just find yourself just like laughing. There are no tabs. There are no dog ears, nothing, because I read this book in one day and it was compulsively readable. I couldn't put it down. It was just that good. The narrator is definitely unlikable. She is not meant for us to like, okay? So this story here, quickly, everyone knows, but I'll just go ahead and say, for reasons being some people might not know, that it's about a young woman who is fairly well off in her life. She is orphaned. She has no parents. Her mom and dad have died. They left her quite a bit of money and a home in upstate New York, and she still just cannot figure out why she is unhappy. She's depressed. So she decides that she wants to sleep for a year. I know you're thinking, how can somebody sleep for a year? I think I can say this without spoiling the plot, that she has this weirdo, unhinged psychologist who prescribes her lots of sedatives and medication to allow her the opportunity to be able to do that. And then what this book follows is that year and how things go, and her fever dreams and sleepwalking and such as all of those things, and her best friend also. What's her best friend's name? We don't know the narrator's name, but we do know her best friend. What is this? Because chapter 8 is like 1 page. Reva, and her and Reva's escapades. And so it's just really a well-rounded novel. It's worth all of the hype that it has received since it came out in 2018. And I do think it's a read that is for the millennial. I just think it's for us. I really do. I think it encompasses what it's like for us, what we feel. You know, sometimes we have those days. I wrote down here that this book made me feel seen, in the idea that although I find myself a bit more privileged than a lot of humans with breath in their body, life still can be difficult at times. And the natural feeling to want to alienate oneself from others is a fair and wise response to the turmoil. My lived experience is quite unique from anyone else's that I know. Therefore, this book here definitely made me feel seen. And so I definitely feel like it's one for the books, and you guys should definitely pick it up if you haven't. Okay, let's move on to the next. I read a couple of classics this year, but none stuck out to me like John Steinbeck's East of Eden. All right, this was actually an honorable mention last year as I only got to chapter, I think, 20 last year. That's about this much. So basically, I hadn't read the book. And so I made it my mission to read the entirety of this novel, and I definitely did, and I definitely loved it. That's why it's number 6. So John Steinbeck's East of Eden was published in 1952. 2 names rather, Kathy and Kate. If you know anything about this novel, Kathy and Kate are the same person. If you know anything else about this novel, Kathy and Kate are one of the most mystifying and horrifically scary villains you will ever read in literature that's not shape-shifting and deformed. She's a regular human being person who was that girl to me. She is feminism. I'm joking. I'm joking, but I loved Kathy. I love Kate. I enjoyed this villain so much. That was Kate. Her mystique as Kathy is what made me really want to know her story, which is one way Steinbeck reeled me in. Okay, this is a family saga that spans over 2 generations. It is about the Trasks and the Hamiltons. It is also said to be a Cain and Abel type retelling. If you know anything about Cain and Abel, you should know that Cain in the Bible is a farmer who became enraged when the Lord accepted the offering of his brother, Abel, a shepherd, in reference to his own. Cain murdered Abel and was banished by the Lord from the settled country. Take with this what you will. That's the Cain and Abel story. Not everything is based on Cain and Abel, but it's on Cain and Abel, which are the Trasks, descendants of the Trasks. Their father, Cain is Cal in the story and Abel is Aaron. And so you also have the dad and the uncle too. But anyway, girl, let me tell you something. This book it's not boring, basically. When you think of classics, you think, oh my God, so boring, so long, so drawn out. It could have been half as many pages instead of it being 800. 600, it could have been 3. No, you need to read all 601 pages of this to really understand what John Steinbeck was telling you to. I really enjoyed every bit of it, every part of it, to be honest with you guys. It was worth it. It was worth my time. It was worth a lot of my attention. It was just worth it. And I think if you have not read this, you should. It's just really good. It's just really good. And honestly, the way it's written kind of reminds you of like a movie script. So if you go into it looking at it as knowing that this had become a movie, that's a cool way to look at it. And that's a good way to read it. But honestly, yeah, it was great. And it's number 6. All right. Woo, number 5. I actually don't have this novel. I read it via ebook. I borrowed it out from the library a couple of days ago and I just finished it this morning. And yes, it is top tier. It made it to my list that I had already been thinking about. I had already had these books sitting on my shelf for about a week and I just had to throw this one in there. That's why my favorite books there are 7 of them, because I had to add this one in and I had to add another one in that I'll talk about later. But this is Trust by Hernan Diaz. It's everything everybody said it was and better. So Trust by Hernan Diaz was published in 2022. It won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction along with Demon Copperhead this year at the top of 2023, which it is well deserved. So Trust is a nonlinear novel about wealth, power, greed, and the truth. And above all else, who could be solicited or who can be trusted to tell the truth or to write a narrative regarding your lifestyle, your choices, and overall just you as a person. So it's told in 4 parts: a novel, unfinished manuscript, memoir, and diary. It's like being on a wild goose chase for the one narrative that's the one. So you have 4 narratives in the novel and you are engulfed in it. First of all, the first novel was good. The opening story, I was engulfed in it. I was like, what is this? You know, this is awesome. This is amazing. For me, I'm interested in things like The Gilded Age. I watched The Gilded Age. I love that show on HBO. I love Pride and Prejudice. I love all things rags to riches. Like, I like stuff like that. I love the American dream, even though I have no place in that because I am a Black woman. I was deemed the lowest of the low during that time frame. We've come so far and we still have so far to come, but that still doesn't negate from the fact that I am truly interested in that part of American history. And so this novel gives you a piece of that. It basically sets the stage for something in my eye. It sets the tone and sets the stage for the 1920s and the 1930s, the Roaring 20s up into the crash of Wall Street and subsequently the Depression. And I don't want to talk about, so the guy's name is revealed in part 2 of the story. Part 1 will have you thinking that the story is about this guy named, what is his name? It's not his name. Benjamin Rask and Ellen, but it's not about them. His real name is revealed in part 2. His name is Andrew Bevel and his wife's name is Mildred. And so a couple of other notes that I do have written is like, did I say this? I don't know if I said this, but each narrative lends to the other in the way that bits and pieces you'll find sprinkled throughout each part, which brings the story all together once you make it to part 3. As you read through part 3, and the character that is introduced in part 3 is this young woman who is solicited to do this thing. And she's finding out, okay, why is he doing this? And why is he giving me this and not giving me that? And what about her? And it's just so dang good. So basically, if you read with a critical mind, by part 3, you can tell what's really going on here and you never get bored. Like, that's one of the main things about this book. It was a long one, but you never get bored. I read it in 2 days. It's so good. Like, it's so good. It's so good. It's so worth it. All those people who gave it 3 stars, I think they need to read it again. Maybe the last part was not what they were expecting because of their mindset. You know, a lot of the story is rooted in misogyny. Take with that what you will. Take with that what you will. Have a critical lens when you're reading this one, because by the time you make it to the end, if you're a woman reading it, you're going to be flabbergasted, but you're going to be so overjoyed because it's the story of our lives. If you've ever been in a serious relationship or, you know, a valid employee in the workplace, which we're all valid, but if you're like one of those top tier thinkers in the workplace and you're female, this book is really gonna like hit different for you. So I definitely suggest it. It's a powerful novel, and I definitely might try my hand again at In the Distance. I tried to read In the Distance before on audio, and the audio was superb. Please don't get me wrong. Voice changes. Like, I think it was even sound in the audio, and I think that was the issue for me. So I think I'll probably try to read In the Distance physically. But yeah, definitely a good one. That's number 5. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is What Are You Going Through by Sigrid Nunez. Okay, so this was my first Sigrid Nunez. When I found this book, I was looking for The Friend. And when I finished this book, I've been looking for The Friend everywhere, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and have to buy it on Amazon. I know. Even my 2 favorite local bookshops do not have this. They will order it for me, but it's just like, if they order it for me, they want me to pay like $30. You know, it's just So I'm gonna keep looking, but anyway. This is the star of the show. Number 4 on my list. What Are You Going Through by Sigrid Nunez? Okay, so this is about a friendship, above all else, companionship. It's about death. It's about life. What everyone says about this book is true. You don't expect to fall in love with it, but you will the moment you read it from start to finish. It is a quick little novel. It took about 3 hours to read it, and it was just divine. It was so sweet. It was very comforting. What else did I say? So if you're grieving a loss or at a crossroads as to what you may offer another human being, pick this up. And I just wanted to do a quick shout out. I'm a quiet booktuber, meaning I'm still trying to find my way here. I started out strong, but life took over. You know, I still read from behind the cameras. I'm always reading something. And I'm just going to push myself more to engage in community this year, 2024. But I watch everybody. Like I said, my favorite YouTuber is a modern Ajuma. Yenna, I love her so much, but I don't comment enough. You know what I'm saying? I don't talk enough. Another one of my favorite YouTubers is Nathan over at Nathan's Nook. I don't comment enough. I don't talk enough, but I watch every video. I like every video. And I love his channel. I love his vibe. I love everything about him. He pushes me to want to share more about myself, you know, a lot more about my style and a lot more about the films that I watch, my creativity, you know, aside from my vlogging channel. I want to put more emphasis on this one. So I love him so much. And so I just watched a recent video yesterday that he posted regarding All About Love, which I'm going to order that by Bell Hooks. And he's going through a tough time right now. He lost a friend. He lost a friend that he was actually doing a buddy read with. And so one thing that he said in that video at the very end that stuck out to me was, and I quote, "There's so much to give. There's so much to offer as like a person that just exists. There's a lot of offering." That reminds me of exactly what this book presents to you as a person. There's so much to give as a friend. There's so much to give as a person just existing through this world. Romantic love is one thing, but I think above all else, familial love is wonderful. Being a parent is something in and of itself that I think you will only experience if you have reached that pinnacle part of your life and you want to do that, which reminds me of my top read. But being a friend and companionship is one of the great joys of so many people's lives. And so to lose someone or to be that last person that someone has, which is kind of like what this book is about, like she takes on the companionship of a friend going through cancer. And so she's subsequently there for her through the whole process. And they weren't even like the closest, which is something else in and of itself. But I thought about him as I was writing up, you know, things that I wanted to say about this book. And yeah, so shouts out to you, Nathan. I hope things will get better. Things fall apart, but they come back together again, full circle. And this was one of the books that I think you probably should read. One of my favorites. Number 4. All right, so we're down to the top 3. All right, so with the top 3, this one, this one's gonna get a reread very soon. This is Near to the Wild Heart by Clarice Lispector. First off, I want to tell you something. This is not for the weak. This is not for the faint of heart. You cannot look at this novel and decide, oh, this is a short one. It's 194 pages. There's so many pages that I have dog-eared where it's just like, I want to underline every line because it has so much meaning to me in my life. This book was everything. First of all, let's just talk about Clarice for a second. All right, so Near to the Wild Heart was published in 1943. So Clarice Lispector is actually Ukrainian. She's a Jewish Ukrainian, but I think she had to move from her family moved them from the Ukraine to Brazil when she was a little girl. Also, she is a part of the modernist movement, which at that time was a new alignment with the experience and values of life. And so this book is a product of that. So Wild Heart. So Near to the Wild Heart. Wild Heart actually symbolizes something very significant. So significance of this new way of seeing things. So this whole book, Joanna in this entire book is born, orphaned, and moved off to her aunt and uncle. So she's she's already as a child in this novel, you see her sort of looking and viewing things in an obscure manner, in an obscure way. And I do think her father kind of helps her on with it. Like he nudged her to be those things and do those things, which is wonderful. I love a parent in your life that actually like helps you to seek out these new and different ideas and things and ways of doing things and thinking. And so you see that early on in the novel with Joanna. So Joanna becomes an orphan. She goes to move with her aunt and uncle. Joanna is a very weird and even untoward child at times, which makes her aunt and uncle kind of intimidated by her. And they think that she's very awkward and very weird and something's off about her. Like she's missing a few marbles or whatever, but no. Basically, she early on sees the world different from everybody else. She just calls it what it is. This is what it is, and this is just it. You just don't understand. You are not in tune. You are idealistic. You have all these expectations on people and on the world that it will not give you back. That's how she's viewing everybody else. And it's just like, you idiots. You know, you guys are such idiots or whatever. But she's not actually like that, but that's like her method or mode of thinking, like as you read through the novel. So she gets married to, what's her husband's name? Octavio? Yeah. It's either Octavio or Octavio. She gets married to him. He leaves her and she's like not fucked up about it at all. She starts seeing this other guy who's like stalking her at one point, and then he also leaves her. But when he leaves her, she feels like, oh, he couldn't have left me because he doesn't like me or love me. He must be like reprimanded or something, or he must, you know what I'm saying? Like he must be in jail. So anyway, aside from the plot and all those things, you get a lot of her thinking and a lot of anecdotes of Joanna. And those are the parts that I really want to hone in on. So she's a very strange character, and she seems to understand the world in a way, like I said, that no one else around her does. She gets it and literally can't be bothered with anyone who doesn't. So just keep that in mind if you decide to pick this up and read it. That's basically it. She is just uniquely different. You know, she is just this all-seeing, all-knowing person. Like she even has a moment in the novel where she decides to pray to God, but then she thinks, I don't have to pray to God. You know, I have the answers, you know, and I don't know if that's a way that you should think of things, but I understood it. You feel what I'm saying? So let's go to some quotes. So first we're going to go to page 9. All right. So I have here underlined, she felt a perfect animal inside her, full of contradictions of selfishness and vitality. You know, just take with that what you will. Page 11. I accept everything that comes from me because I am unaware of the causes, and I may be trampling something vital without knowing it. This is my greatest humility, she figured. Page 13. There's 2. Page 12. To be free was to carry on after all, and there again was the beaten track. Page 13. Let us cry together quietly for having suffered and continuing on so sweetly. Let us sleep on God in mystery, a quiet, fragile ship floating on the sea. Behold, sleep. Skip over to page, which I have some more, but these are the ones that like really popped out at me. Page 44. It's not being worth more to others as regards the idea human being. It's being worth more inside of yourself. That's a word. That's a word. Her teacher was telling her that. This is how you need to think. This is how you need to feel. You need to understand. First, love and all that starts with self. Page 68. We're almost done. Page 68. She expected nothing. She was in herself, the end itself. And page 91, above a few more. I have so much I could say about this. Sleeping was an adventure every night, falling from the easy clarity in which she lived into the same mystery, dark and cool, crossing darkness, dying and being reborn. That was like a big theme throughout this novel. Rebirth. One more. A certain degree of blindness is necessary in order to see certain things. What? So this is truly an original piece of fiction. Clarice is the GOAT. Clarice made me think beyond what I felt like I could just as a person, but also she solidified something within me. Reading her made me feel like I wasn't crazy, basically. And also reading her made me feel like I didn't have to, I don't have to, basically what is not, or what is understood doesn't have to be explained. That's what reading her made me feel. And that's all I want to say. So this is my top 3 read of the year. I can't wait to read more of Clarice. So our number 2, I also don't have that. I ordered it though. It's on its way. It's Finding Me by Viola Davis. I just finished that book yesterday. 2 5-star reads at the end of the year. Who'd have thunk? But yeah. Let me tell you something. That book, I don't have anything to say. I said so much. I've reviewed that book on TikTok twice. And I also put a little snippet of what I had to say before I got into part 2 of that book on this channel. If you want to see what I have to say about it, just go look at that one where my camera is upright and I have the freckle filter on. But it's just amazing. Any black woman, I'm going to say black woman first. Any black woman that has not read her memoir, you should read her memoir. It'll bless you. And that's all I'm gonna say. It will bless you. It will bless you. Any white woman that wants to understand the black woman experience, you should read that book. If you care about the daily things that we have to go through, if you care to know, if you care to read someone who intentionally wants you to understand the severity at which it is to be a black woman growing up, not just even in the South. She's from Rhode Island. If you want to know about the characteristics that a black woman has been born with and how that makes her face even harsher adversity, you should read this novel. She speaks on colorism, the black experience as a woman, child abuse, sexual abuse, incest, what it's like to be a black woman in the acting field, the 1% that truly make it off of acting. She speaks on so many things, and it's a necessary read, and it's my number 2 read. It almost was my number 1, but there's just one book, and we're moving on now. There's just one book that I didn't even write any notes on, because this book lives in me. This book, I can't forget about this book. I think about this book almost every day. And it's so funny, I just finished one of her books. I've been reading my ass off, like I told y'all I would in my last video. I've been reading my ass off. I just finished Housekeeping by Marilynne Robinson. And I want to get into my top read of 2023. It might be quite controversial, but it is what it is. And it is Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. This book has blessed me beyond belief. This book has put so many things into perspective for me as a mother, as a parent, as a Christian, as a spiritual person, as a human being living. This book is very special. It's very special. And like I wrote under Charles's post about not being into it, you just have to be at a specific part of your life to experience what Marilynne Robinson wanted you to experience from this novel, and to really get all of the understanding. It really is. It's really not for everybody. You have to be just something different to appreciate this novel at an early point in your life. You know, I'm not the oldest person ever, but I've lived a life worth living. And I know I got a lot more life to live, but I lived a life to appreciate what she wanted me to get from this. So anyway, this book is by Marilynne Robinson. It won the Pulitzer Prize in 2005. It was published in 2004. And It's about Reverend John Ames, and it is a series of letters that John is writing to his son in the event that he might pass away before his son reach adulthood, because he is very old, and he had his son at an older age. And it's everything in here. It's a ray of light. This book is a ray of light. When I was I'm getting choked up. When I was reading this book, I look forward to every word. It took up so many pages in my commonplace book, all of the quotes. So what else I write? I said the joys of life. It encompasses the joys of life coupled with despair and those disheartening times that you may experience as a human being. So many quotes, so many notes. So one of the most beautiful paragraphs that this story has is on page 52. And it is paragraph 2. I'm going to read it. You know what? I'm going to read it. Here it goes. I never have believed I'd see a wife of mine doting on a child of mine. It still amazes me every time I think of it. I'm writing this in part to tell you that if you ever wonder what you've done if you ever wonder what you've done in your life, and everyone does wonder sooner or later, you have been God's grace to me, a miracle, something more than a miracle. You may not remember me very well at all, and it may seem to you to be no great thing to have been the good child of an old man in a shabby little town. You will no doubt leave me behind. If only I had the words to tell you. This book, it also took my breath away. Okay, Viola Davis took my breath away, but he took my breath away also. And at the time when I read it, I wrote here, I was in tears, I was crying. It's just grace. This book is just, it shows how much pastors and reverends, they are sheep too, you know. And it's just unforgettable. It's just unforgettable. And I want to tell you something else. It gives you perspective when you might not have any. You know, for those of you who aren't as spiritual as me, who don't believe in God, but you know, you believe in source and you believe in the universe, this book will put you together. It will get you together. It will give you something to help you organize those feelings that you have, that you're going through, that you don't know who to turn to. Like, it just gave me all of that and more. And honestly, there's nothing else that I want to say about this book. It did for me what it needed to do for me, and it was my #1 read of the year. And I love this book so much, and I can't wait to read the second installment, which is home, and it's on my shelf. Now, I will say that although this was a series of personal anecdotes and letters to his son, when you get to part 2, because there's a part 2, that's when the drama starts, because you're gonna learn that in this story, Reverend John Ames was this amazing guy, but he had one person that he loathed above everybody else. He couldn't stand him. And you're going to learn about why he couldn't stand him. And you're going to learn about the personal issues that the person that he couldn't stand was dealing with on his own. And it's jaw dropping, it's flabbergasting, and it makes you want to go to the next book. That's all I'm going to say. And it's worth making it to the end. But the thing that Marilynne did was she made you wait until the end, because literally you don't find out till like the last couple pages, and it's like, what? But I have restraint. I can wait. Just like I can't wait to tell you guys what I'm reading in 2024. Just know it's a bunch of series that I'm going to be finishing up, or maybe not even finishing up, but this is a series I'm still into. We got the Neapolitan Quartet. We have Rachel Cusk's Outline trilogy. Like, it's a lot of series that we're going to get into in 2024. But anyway, that's all of my favorite books of 2023. They have blessed me beyond belief. If there's anything that you've read out of my list that you loved or you didn't like so much, I would love to talk about that with you in the comments. Talk to your girl. Subscribe to your girl. Like, let's have conversations. Let's not be weird. Let's not be book snobs. Okay? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in my next upload. Deuces.